And with that being said, I would ask you if you would bow with me for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Would you please stand and join me as we say our pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on our agenda this evening is the approval of the agenda. Mr. Mark Reeder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few items to note tonight as changes to the agenda. Verbally, this is not on the list, but a modification to item 6A regarding the approval of the library bylaws. Member appointments to the Board of Trustees. The request is to postpone action on that. Go ahead and take care of the bylaws, but postpone the appointments. That's 6A. Correction to action item 6B concerning the clock tower. Just for the record, the resolution number should be R0513-054. Correction to that number. In addition, under the citizen comment period, Ms. Dina Lincoln-Hoker, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, will address the board regarding allocations to the school division's budget. And final action tonight under 6D action, consideration of a request to award the real estate appraisal services contract to Wingate Appraisal. This item is requested to be postponed. Those are all the additions, changes, and corrections that I have for tonight's agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Reeder. Are there any comments from any board members? Any questions regarding the agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Park.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
We've heard the motion by Mrs. Parker that we approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Our next item on the agenda this evening is the 15-minute citizen comment period. I have several people that have signed up. Yes, Mrs. Davis. And then I have two that have signed up that will come right up. Yes. Yes, I have. I have.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Mrs. Davis.
I'm Jackie Davis from Thaxton, Virginia, and I have a prayer for this meeting tonight.
Thank you.
I praise you tonight, Lord, for your love and forgiveness that all you have done for each of us. You are the God of truth and light. Thank you, Father, for the 7 people sitting here tonight as representatives of our county. Lord, I ask your blessings on each of them, blessings and wisdom and discernment in the challenges before them in the coming months. Blessings on Mr. Arrington, blessings on Mr. Sharp, blessings on Mrs. Parker, blessings on Mrs. Pollard, blessings on Mr. Thompson, blessings on Mr. Cheek, and blessings on Mr. Martin. Their responsibilities are many as they strive to be the best for Bedford County. I also ask blessings on the staff represented here tonight and also the citizens. Protect everyone represented here tonight from the darkness that seems to be wanting to push its way into our lives. You are the Father of light, and I ask that you will show each of us how to be the light in the midst of this darkness. Lord, we are all seeking truth in so many areas in our country. Bring forth the truth. Thank you, Father, for forgiving us as we go off of our own paths. Keep us focused on you and make us mindful of your callings as individuals. Thank you, Father, for all the many blessings that you have given to us as a nation, state, and a county. Be with all during this meeting here tonight and let your light shine. In the name of our Savior and Lord. Amen.
Amen. Mrs. Cheryl Sprouse. And as I call your name, please come forward, state your name and your address.
Cheryl Sprouse, 1001 Goose Ridge Drive, Forest, Virginia, 24551, a taxpayer of Bedford County. Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors, I come first of all concerned about over the past year things that have happened in light of this board. We've had members to resign, we've had members to leave the meeting, and we've had members to get quite upset and be very accusatory as to some things that have taken place. I come to you tonight in regards to comments made from board member Andy Pollard, which were very unprofessional and inappropriate. As a citizen of Bedford County, along with many other teachers, we're told to come to our governing body for any request. I do represent the Bedford County Education Association and requested from Mr. Arrington to make a presentation to the board requesting money to be appropriated to the Bedford County School Board to allow us to receive a salary increase and to provide an education that is appropriate to all students in Bedford County. We felt the presentation was well presented and received. Again, this was information to you to hear to help in making your monetary decisions to the school board and to many tax-paying citizens. A public hearing was held on April the 8th for the Bedford County budget. It was one of the most professional budget hearings that I've attended in the last 3 to 5 years. Everyone was calm and making their wishes known as to how to spend the county's money. I must first state that all of you who sit in front of me represent the citizens of Bedford County and serve as our governing body. You hold the purse strings and make decisions as to who gets the money and how much. With that being said, you are who we come to with our request. If we do not come and make our request, beg or whatever, how are you going to know what we want? I do not believe you're going to give us a raise if we just sit back and tell you nothing. Ms. Pollard, how dare you call us budget crybabies? I don't want to rob taxpayers who can't afford to pay a bunch of crybabies. I am one of those taxpayers, and I firmly believe that my tax dollars should go to Bedford County school system to make us competitive with others in the region and to make our students be competitive in the world outside. You and Mr. Arrington serve as school liaisons for calendar year 2012-2013. Why are you on that committee if you are not going to support us? Your choice of language in regards to the public hearing, the crap we took was unprofessional. Your choice of language and name calling has hit every newspaper in the area. Teachers in Bedford County have received support from people in our county, in our region, and outside of our region. Editorials have not been written solely by current educators. They have been written by non-educators out of disbelief and concern for the future of Bedford County. One person in an email that you wrote to said that you have been receiving derogatory comments and ugly emails from teachers. We have no control over that. They write what they want. It is freedom of speech. If we do not have our governing body supporting the education system, do not expect Bedford County to grow. Who would want to live in Bedford County and have their school system not supported by the governing body? Lastly, I'll say if you do not want to hear our concerns, taxpayers' concerns, maybe you need to revisit why you're sitting on the Board of Supervisors. Last but not least, you owe the educators of Bedford County an apology, a public apology. Do not hide behind it was just to those of us who came speaking for all teachers and support staff for a raise, certain school board members, and certain central office staff. You clearly stated to the newspaper staff member that night after your spill, you can quote me in the paper. For the record, no one controls the teachers in this county and tells us what to ask for. We are smart, we are professional enough to take care of our own business. And the thought of thinking that I'm standing in front right now of all of you and knowing that this was said, I really am appalled that it was allowed to take place. We have been made a mockery. Bedford County has been made a mockery of. We have been laughed at, and we've also been tears shed. People that know the educational people, know how hard we work day in and day out, know that what was said to us was totally inappropriate and unprofessional. The only thing that I ask of you to do is what somebody asks you to do, Ms. Pollard, in the meeting. Come to the school and walk in our shoes for a day. And you will see what the life of a real teacher is. If you're not going to represent the teachers of Bedford County or the educational programs of Bedford County, do not serve on the committee as a liaison. And two, consider whether or not you belong in the seat you're sitting in right now. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dina Lincolnhofer.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Dina Lincoln Hooper. I live at 1693 Saunders Grove Drive and I teach at Stanford Middle School. Mr. Arrington, members of the board, teacher accountability and effectiveness are hot button topics in education today. In Bedford County, my colleagues and I have risen to the challenge of being accountable for student learning in our classrooms. This is true if we are sick, if we're tired, if we're struggling with personal issues, or if we're competing with the sight of snow falling outside our windows for our students' attention. Bedford County teachers are there daily for our students. At the same time, we expect accountability from our Board of Supervisors. Instead, we have directly heard a member of this board make some very inappropriate comments regarding our county's educators. To begin, the supervisor has responded by blaming a reporter for allegedly misleading the public. As these were direct quotes, this is not only a dishonest allegation, but one that demonstrates a lack of character. Accountable leaders accept responsibility for their own actions rather than trying to shift the blame onto others. To continue, this supervisor has denigrated her own character by berating teachers for taking the time to bring their concerns to the board as constituents and on behalf of their students who are constituents as well. I quote Colin Powell, who said, "The day soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you have stopped leading them. They have either lost confidence that you can help them or concluded that you do not care. Either case is a failure of leadership." Next, this supervisor declined to be interviewed, instead opting to respond in the form of a written statement. This venue offers no opportunity to be questioned in any way. Responsible leadership is transparent and does not shrink from open discourse with the media. Finally, in her statement, which did not retract her previous comments, the supervisor instead directed them to, quote, end quote, specific school staff. As a civics teacher, I instruct my students in the Virginia Standards of Learning, which emphasize the necessity of an informed public as the cornerstone of a healthy democracy. Just as it is our responsibility to serve all students, regardless of whether or not they think or feel like we do, it is your job to serve all your constituents. This includes people who do not share your political stance, children who are too young to vote, and those who may be angry with you because you have disappointed them. Part of your job is to ensure that the county does not have expenditures that exceed revenues in order for us to remain financially solvent. But characterizing your responsibility, one that you campaigned for and took an oath to perform, to provide an education for the students of Bedford County as quote unquote robbing taxpayers, is in effect shirking your duty as elected officials. Furthermore, it is disheartening and disrespectful to the majority of us who live and work here, who have children who attend and who have graduated from our schools. In closing, I would like to state that the Bedford County Board of Supervisors is accountable for modeling the standard of behavior you would like to see in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this public comment section? Anyone at all? Okay, hearing none, I will close this. And you know, I think, honestly, I think I will speak to this tonight. And I'll tell you what I want to do. I don't want to talk down to you. I think I'm going to stand up and come out there and talk with you. I guess I would start by maybe moving forward, or moving backward, and let's start with a meeting that I had on January 4th, starting this budget process. We do have transparent government, and I want to talk about some transparency here tonight. I had a meeting with the constitutional officers, all 5 of them, on the 4th of January, to sit down and talk with these constitutional officers so that we might establish a dialogue, start talking about budget. Those budget numbers are very important because we have limited revenue. So I wanted to hear from all 5 constitutional officers as to regarding how they would like to see this budget move forward, what their needs may or may not be, what they could do to help us with limited revenue, and how we could work together. The dialogue was good. It was positive. They asked many of the things that you all asked when you came, Mrs. Sprouse, asked for raises and different things to meet the needs so that they might be able to do their job more effectively. Now, the job of this board and all of my constituents sitting up here is to be able to take those dollars and put them all together and provide the core services that are required in the county so that we might have the government that people pay for and the government, quite frankly, that they deserve. Now, I want to qualify by saying a few things. I want to talk to you about where we really are here in government tonight. You know, there is a clear mistrust of government. There's a clear mistrust at the local level. There's clear mistrust at the state level. There's clear mistrust at the federal level. I don't think there's any question about that across the board, because all we have to do is turn the radio on or listen to the current news of the day, and we will see clearly that there's a mistrust. And it runs for various reasons, many reasons. Some of them are real, some of them are perceived, some of them may or may not be. But I want to try to wrap your mind around and bring this so we can really understand, because I want to talk to you tonight. And I would like to try to explain some of the things that you have problems with here tonight. And I want you to understand who we are and what we do. You're right. Both of you are right. You do elect us. There's no question about it. We have roughly 70,000 people in the county, divided up closely to around 10,000 per district. Now, I want to talk about an even deeper issue as I quantify what I'm getting ready to say, so you'll understand me. In the state of Virginia, we're running tens of billions of dollars in a pension deficit. A pension deficit. $20 billion in the state of Virginia with 7.9 million people. Those numbers are overwhelming. That's a moral obligation that is beyond the pale. How are we going to pay it? Those of you that are here tonight that work within the public sector, within the school system, or for this county, or whatever it is, understand this. This is not about you, and it's not about a problem with you doing that. Government is needed, it's required, it's God ordained. We have to have it. But the reality of it is if we look at where we are today, we have to be real honest about what we can do about it and what our resources may or may not be. I want to give you a number here that was not talked about in this budget session. In Bedford County tonight, we have a $98 million pension deficit on the school side alone. The question is, who is going to pay it? If we combine it all together with what we've got on the resources with other, we have roughly $108 million plus in a pension deficit. That is our portion of the deficit fitting into how the state works. Now, that's not about you. I understand that. But the reality of it is that's what we have, and that's what we have to deal with. If we look at the nearly 70 cost centers in Bedford County tonight that we have to fund, we do understand clearly that the education budget is without a doubt the largest one. The percentage of it can vary from year to year depending on how it's funded and how we're not funded or funded accordingly with the other roughly 69 cost centers that we have to fund in the county. So it's come down to how are we going to do this and how are we going to continue to do it. I will say this to you, and I want to talk to you about some real numbers tonight. 46 states in America have declared bankruptcy. 46 states. You're right, as you teach our children, you're teaching our future. But we have a fiduciary responsibility and a moral obligation to leave it better than we found it. I wonder how that's going for us these days. We look at 46 states that are bankrupt, and then we look at the federal government with a $17 trillion deficit in this year, with $128 trillion worth of unfunded liabilities, with roughly 20 million people. Those numbers are staggering. And that is what we're leaving our children. That is the future that we're leaving our children. We're not leaving them the piece of the American pie that even I have had the opportunity to get. And I'm very concerned about it. And I will guarantee you every one of you are very concerned about that too. And there's no question about it. So we have a moral obligation to our children to educate them. I have a moral obligation as a citizen, and I have a moral obligation as a supervisor sitting here representing you to do the best that I can do with the limited dollars that we have to make it work. Now, I applaud every one of you that work within the public sector within Bedford County, and all of you within the public school system. But I want to be very clear so you don't misunderstand me tonight. When we started this, we requested the budget, which is always the biggest piece that comes from the Bedford County Public Schools. Within our work sessions we had, sitting here in a 5 o'clock work session not too long ago, the very last one we had, Dr. Shook was here, Randy Hagler was here, Gary Hostetler was here, several other school board members were here. Some of you may have been here. Nearly this side of the room was full. We presented the budget. We laid it out. We clarified it, we quantified it, we talked about the numbers across the board. As the chairman, I asked the question. I said, Dr. Shook, the budget has been presented. Is there anything that you do not understand? Do you have a problem with this budget? Is there something that we need to talk about tonight? I asked it of the sitting school board members and of Randy Hagler. Guess what? No comments. No comments. So before the meeting ended, I thanked them for being here, and I said I can make the assumption that you had no questions, so we understand where we're going. No comment. I said thank you for being here tonight. Then they went over where they held a 6 o'clock meeting. I want to tell you something else. We did not cut the school budget $3.5 million. Because of reversion, there's $6.2 million infused into the school budget this year that you did not have last year. We did not cut the budget $3.5 million. Last year, we gave an additional $2.5 million to the school board in a one-time fund, one-time appropriation. We gave that to the school because we were told that because the stimulus money had run out, we needed that capital infusion to get through the year. Well, guess what? We provided that $2.5 million, but more than that, we gave half of the new money, which is another additional $275,000 on top of it. But I do want you to understand that was a one-time appropriation. So you see, we did not cut $3.5 million out of the budget. And the additional million, which by the way is only $300,000 less than what Dr. Shook asked for in his requested budget. And he is your boss. He is the one that knows what your needs are. He is the one that puts your budget together, not us. We fund by category. We have no line item authority in any way, shape, form, or fashion on the school side. None. We can only up or down a budget number. We set aside $1 million, which, by the way, is a line item set aside for the schools, not for us. That's to go toward the new middle school. I worked on the Jefferson Forest project when I first came on this board. When we decided to remodel, we had a $38.5 million number that we worked toward. We ended up saving nearly $2 million. 1.4 of those millions dollars we still have, which is set aside specifically for the capital improvement project for the middle school. We did not ask for reversion. Reversion comes as a right granted by state code. We did not ask for it. Now that being said, when we had a meeting, I was the chairman of the board when reversion first came up. We had a meeting in Lacey Putney's office in which I brought people together, and we sit down and we ask hard questions. What is reversion? It's only happened 2 times. What does it mean? How will it impact Bedford County? What should we look forward to? What are the pitfalls? We found out through the Council on Local Government that reversion is granted by state code as a right. And you know and I know in today's culture, in our politically correct language, when we talk about rights, everything changes. Okay? So we worked through an agreement that took us a number of years, which we thought was a good agreement based upon what we have to work with and what our, quote, rights are to bargain. That being said, we ended up with $6.2 million coming into the Bedford County Public Schools as a cash infusion. It will go for 15 years maybe, but it has to be reviewed. There's no guarantee that we're going to get $6.2 million annually for the next 15 years. Even a year ago, I sat down with the school board, and even in meetings here, I asked that we clearly ask the school side to do this. Since we did not ask for reversion and we have to build a new middle school, the school board gave us agreement that we would take part of that money to fund the new middle school. The school board brought its own numbers to us in meetings in which they brought anywhere from $28 to $40 million with a debt service obligation annually of somewhere $2.2 to $2.3 million. That came from the school side. We requested that it would be amortized over 15 years so that we do not have to carry something past those reversion dollars when the cash infusion is gone. We asked for that. Now, let's fast forward to where we are today. I also requested that the school side would take at least or a minimum of $500,000 of those dollars. $750,000 would be better. But let's assume that we get it for 15 years and we take just $500,000 of it annually. We'd have $7.5 million in 15 years set aside, or at least the school board would, to meet the needs of education. And not only that, so that when the cash infusion runs out, we're not hammered with a major tax increase that we might not be able to afford, because I don't have a crystal ball, I don't have a clue what that will be. But I do know this: if we plan for it, we will be ahead of that curve. And I still request that from the school side. I'm still making that request. I do understand the arguments. I do understand that as the dollars, the cost of education continues to go up. I understand that, along with everything else. But the reality of it is this: those are some things that we can help control as we look forward in a long-range plan. I asked the school board for a long-range plan in 2005 on facility needs. A year later, they came back with $128.5 million worth of needs. That there's no way we could borrow that kind of money if we wanted to. It was not realistic. We've got to have a better plan. We're trying to work with you, not against you. But we do ask that you would understand that we have some very real challenges over here on this side. So I'm going to be as honest with you as I can about that. When we look at what happened today, number one, we did not cut the budget $3.5 million. We did not. Your money came in the original budget that Dr. Shook presented to this board. He had a 3% raise in there, plus the 2.4% to make the VRS whole, which you all were paying part of it. That's 5.4% coming over in 1 year. That happens to be this year. Now I want to say something to you, Cheryl. I'll say it to all of you, and all of you. I do not put value on who you are. I'm not trying to do that one way or the other. Just like in the private sector, I will tell you, there are some people, that rare person, that whatever you pay them, it's never enough. And you know people like that, don't you? And then for the majority, sometimes whatever we pay them is enough. And sometimes in the real world, it's too much. So I want you to understand that I do not gauge the value of what you all are. That is a school board job, to tell you what you're worth, what your market says that you're worth. That's not who we are. What we look at is the overall dollar value that we can afford to pay into the Bedford County public school system, believing and knowing that you all are doing a good job and doing the best you can with limited resources. Now, I will tell you, I've said it publicly. I've said it on more than one occasion, so I want to be very clear with everybody here tonight. I do not apologize for having the lowest real estate tax rate in the region. I don't. Nor do I apologize for not raising the taxes. I don't. Because you see, we are trying to make government in Bedford County sustainable. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a grip on our debt. We're trying to look at the challenges that we have ahead as to how we may fund this middle school what we can do to add more money to education. Not only that, to public safety, to administration, to Department of Social Services, all government combined. But it's a very, very, very difficult challenge. And it's becoming more difficult every day. We get cuts that are coming from the state. We know that. That's a given. The states don't have any money. The federal government, what's that about? Same thing. So the burden is coming more and more and more down to the local level. And I can tell you right now that you have a board, and I'm speaking for myself, I do care. That's why I'm here. And I can tell you one other thing, I would not be here if I didn't. Because this is the hardest job I've ever done. It's much harder than my job that I do every day, and that's very challenging. But this is much more challenging than that. It really is. So I want you to understand that we are working to do everything that we can do. I think we've done amazingly well without tax increases. There are those that believe that we should have tax increases. I do not believe that. I think I'm taxed enough. I really do. You know, if I look at what I pay at the local, state, and the federal level, nearly 70 cents of every dollar is going into one form of a tax or another. That's enough. It's not about how much money, it's about how we manage those dollars. And we're trying very hard in Bedford County to manage those dollars. We really are. And you know, we appreciate you. I hope you believe that, because we do. We truly do. But again, we have a very difficult job to do. And I want to take it just a little bit further. And I want to talk about what was not included in the budget. One of the things that was not included was 16 new school resource officers. That was not. And I will tell you right now that I think we need to look at that more carefully, and we need to reassess where we're going with school resource officers. Our own sheriff said, and I saw it on Channel News 13, he said that this board, in its handling of the school resource officer issue, was irresponsible. Well, I will tell you right now, Sheriff Brown and I have a very different definition of irresponsible. We really do. I know that SROs are created because of disciplinary problems that are on the inside, not to set us up to protect us from what might come from the outside. And I think we've got to look very carefully at how we spend that money. Do understand this. The $850,000 does not include the vehicles. You can double that. You can take that up in the first year to $1.8 million plus to bring these 16 people on board for something that I don't know how we'll handle. Now, I want to try to define that in my own words to you all tonight. We live in a culture today which everybody picks out a smartphone. You know what? We're fed on 24-hour news, the 24-hour Weather Channel. People feed it back and forth, and I think it almost creates some form of paranoia at times. I truly do. I absolutely believe that. And you know what? I'm not going to gauge as to whether we need it or we don't need it. I'm not capable of doing that, and I don't know what may or may not happen, but I do know this. I do know that we have a lot of places for $2 million, or $1.8 million. We really do. So as we move this forward, I want to again, as best I can say it to you, tell you that I do appreciate you, every one of you. I come out here and shook your hands tonight, each and every one of you. You know why? Because I want to know who you are, and I do care, and I thank you for the job you do in Bedford County. But we've had a very difficult year. And you're right, when it comes down to, quote, have people left this board? They certainly have. Can I answer that? No, I cannot. Only the person that left can give the reason as to why they left the board. I don't know how to answer that. But I know one thing, what it appears to be, and the misperception of that probably says something that it's not. And you know and I know that there's two sides to every story without exception. There is no question about that. No question about it. All I can judge is what we're dealing with right here, right now, tonight. And that's exactly what we will do. So, I'm asking you, in spite of all, and what you may believe or what you think, let's just all move forward Let's try to work together. We can work with the school board. We have a daunting task ahead of us. We do have a middle school to build. We do have to figure out how we may fund these budgets next year, not only this year, but next year. We're going to have to look at the reality of what's coming in October of this year with Obamacare, how that may impact us, how that may not impact us. We've got innumerable egregious regulations coming down the pike as we talk about stormwater management that's going to have a great impact on local government. We have a regional radio program that's going to cost us $2 million that we need to fund that's coming on the public safety side. We've got so many things, and there's one thing that I know for sure, and this I can say without exception, and I know this is the truth. In government, we always have more need than we have money. We do. We really do. So we're trying to do the best that we can. We really are. And I will tell you that I applaud, and I know you may not all share this sentiment, but every one of these board members for their hard work and this staff on the hard work on this budget this year and how many countless hours have been put into it. And for their unanimous vote, which did what? They put the money over on your side that was requested by your superintendent. We gave the 3% raise on this side, which we did. And we have met the obligations for this year to provide or continue to provide the services that you, the citizens of Bedford County, have requested. We have. So I hope that you hear what I mean. It's like my wife, and I'm going to say this to you. I've been married to my wife for nearly 42 years, and here's the deal. I never listen to a word that Donna says to me, but I always listen to what she means. I get that. I get that. And I hope you understand and hear what I'm saying to you tonight. I don't know that you'll define this as leadership or the lack thereof. But you know, we don't need to do this. We just don't need to go down this path. We really don't. I appreciate your right to speak publicly. I do. There's no question about it. There's no doubt about that. That's what makes democracy great. It's our public discourse. It's good. We don't always agree, and that's great, because no one has all the answers. I would hate it if everybody agreed with me. It wouldn't be much fun. And I think you would feel the same way, because you see there's wisdom in numbers. There really is. So, I've never stepped off to do something like this tonight. But I will tell you, I do it because I think it's necessary, I think it's needed, I know it's honest, and I hope that you appreciate it. I hope that you all will do that. You know, school teachers, every one of you that have contacted me during this budget in the last 3 weeks, I have called you all back. Every one of you. There has not been one that I have gotten an email from that I have not personally responded to. Personally. I was on the phone one night, one evening, till nearly 11 o'clock at night, and that conversation started before 9. We are approachable. I'm happy to talk with any one of you at any given time. I absolutely mean it. And again, I have returned every email with a personal phone call. It doesn't matter whether it's the issue regarding the budget, or Mrs. Pollard, or whatever. I have done it. And I want to say this to you, and I want you to bear up under what I'm getting ready to say to you, because I think this might offend some. But I'm going to tell you the truth. This is my 10th year since I started into this, and I'm going to say something to you. I will not support any type of speaking down to, talking about it in any form or fashion. But I do want to say something to you very clearly. I have gotten many emails over those 10 years from educators that I absolutely guarantee you would not want me to read publicly. I know that. And I know you know I'm telling you the truth. That is the truth. So, I said all that to say this. Let's get past it. Let's move on. Let's have the honest dialogue. Let's move it forward. Let's talk about the challenges. Let's be honest about the challenges. Come to me. If you think I've cut your budget $3.5 million, I will tell you. Call me and ask me. And when I didn't, I will tell you what I said. No, I didn't. And I will happily explain to you what I did not do. When I do something that you don't like and I did do it, you know what I'll do? I'll explain to you why I did do it. And I'm not going to shirk that responsibility. So I will tell you this. I appreciate you being here tonight just as we started this meeting. I really do. And I will say this to you too. Please help us help you. And I not only say that to Bedford County Public Schools, but everyone that's sitting in this room, everyone that's connected with the local government, any way, shape, form, or fashion, and do understand this. In so doing, we do have to consider the taxpayers also. Now, I'm very careful to qualify this. Yes, you are all taxpayers. Okay? Not saying no one contributes or they don't contribute. That's not what I'm trying to say here. We're all in this thing together, okay? And we do have to bring X amount of revenue in each year to be able to continue to do what we do. So, we'll move it forward. Hopefully next year will be better. But you know what? Even if it's not, we'll still move forward. We'll do the thing that we need to do. Always. Together. And do understand this. This so-called acrimonious relationship between the Bedford County Board of Supervisors and the Bedford County School Board, that is non-existent. I'm happy to discuss any and everything with the school board at all times. And I believe every board member would say the same thing. We're happy to do that. So, you know, sometimes the perception is not reality. So, please, again, help us. We'll move it forward. Bedford County is a great place to live. You've chosen. You sign a contract every year that says you choose to stay here. I choose to stay here. I'm happy to pay my taxes. I'm happy to be a part of this Board of Supervisors. I'm happy to live in a country that allows me the opportunity to participate. I'm happy about that. And I'm also grateful for those of you who have contacted me. And I hope you're grateful that I have contacted you back and that we talked through. So anyway, enough of that. I appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and finish this meeting. Thank you. Our next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Mr. Mark Reeder.
Chairman and board members, the consent agenda as presented is before you. Resolutions concerning Emergency Medical Services Week, a resolution to authorize submission of a full approved VEST partnership grant application, and an application to submit an application to the Library of Virginia to fund conservation of certain order books. There are no matching grant or matching fund requirements for that grant. 3 items.
Thank you, Mr. Reeder. Are there any questions or comments from any board member regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion of approval.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sharp.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. That's right.
You have heard the motion by Supervisor Sharp that we approve the consent agenda as written. Roll call vote. Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Mrs. Pilot.
Yes.
Mrs. Park.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, the motion is carried. Moving on next to the approval of the minutes, starting with March the 5th.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Pollard?
first I would like to thank Bridget for her work in getting this done. And having said that, I will make a motion that we approve the minutes of March 5th.
You've heard the motion by Mrs. Pollard that we approve the minutes of March the 5th. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
I abstain, I was not here for that meeting. Next, March the 11th. Any comments on March the 11th? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Pollard?
I move that we approve the minutes of March 11th.
You've heard a motion by Mrs. Pollard that we approve the minutes of March the 11th. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
March the 13th.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Parker?
if no one has any further comments, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March the 13th.
You've heard the motion that we approve the minutes of March the 13th by Mrs. Parker. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
March the 18th. Any questions, comments, observations, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Parker?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 18th.
You've heard the motion by Mrs. Parker that we approve the minutes of March the 18th. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
March the 21st. We're going to run out of March in a minute. Oh, gee. Okay. March the 21st. Any comments? Mr. Thompson? None? Would someone like to make a motion we approve these?
Mr. Chair, I so move to approve the minutes of March 21st.
Heard the motion by Mr. Thompson that we approve the minutes of March the 21st. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Okay, and the 25th. Wow. March the 25th. Any additions, deletions, corrections, comments, questions? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion of approval, please.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Parker.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March the 25th.
You've heard the motion by Mrs. Parker that we approve the minutes of March the 25th. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye. I abstain.
Okay. One abstention. Moving on to April the 8th.
Mr. Chair, there's no comments by the board. I move that we approve the minutes of April the 8th, 2010.
You have heard the motion by Supervisor Thompson that we approve the minutes of April the 8th. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Sharp?
I'll abstain.
Okay, one more extension. Okay. April the 22nd.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Pollard?
if there are no questions or corrections, I move that we approve the minutes of April 22nd.
You've heard the motion by Mrs. Pollard that we approve the minutes of April 22nd. All in favor, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all. Moving on, our next item is item 5. Item 5A, public hearing, public appearances, continuation of a public hearing from April the 22nd, 2013, Board of Supervisors meeting regarding a request to approve a special use permit to establish a transportation terminal on property identified as tax map number 87A-1-12. Staff presentation, Mr. Brad Robinson, planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As you know, this project was continued from the April 22nd meeting due to the lack of a planning commission recommendation at that time. I would like to note that since that last meeting, the planning commission has reviewed this application and given a favorable recommendation on this request by a vote of 6-0. This was the original concept plan that was submitted with the application and which was presented on April the 22nd. And this is the revised concept plan for your consideration this evening. I will note this concept plan has been revised by the applicant since the Planning Commission meeting of May the 7th to address some additional concerns from that meeting. And this was the list of original staff conditions. Since you have seen these before, I won't read through these individually, but these were the original conditions. And this was a condition added by the Planning Commission on May the 7th. And it would be condition number 5, reading, the developer shall move the building northward to the parking lot line as shown on the revised concept plan. Again, I will note the concept plan for consideration this evening has addressed this condition.